Greetings, beautiful people out there, wherever, whenever you may be. This is Evan. I hope y'all are doing all right today, wherever you're at, whenever you're at. Making another video today. Going to discuss a particular topic about letting go and all of the different things that come with that, and even some potential misconceptions about letting go. So, cheers and skull, y'all. I'm drinking some go-to cola. I will admit, the go-to cola powder that I got previous to this from the same company, um, even though the one I was consuming before this was expired by actually a couple of years, I believe, it was a little bit greener than this stuff. And this was supposedly packaged in 2026, but um, it seems to be fine. It doesn't really. It's not like bad tasting necessarily. It still tastes like go-to cola, like the one previous. But you can't expect perfection. Especially, I'm sure that many of the organic and non-GMO certified growers and distributors of a lot of these things are, without a shadow of a doubt, under the most stress and um, daunting odds, let's say. I can't really think of the word that I'm looking for to express that, but cheers to that. Wherever you can with what you have, do your best to support farmers who do it real, who do it raw, who don't, you know, subscribe completely to the beast system, because that support goes a long way and also says a lot about you too. But I also realize that we got to do what we can, and I guess I'll get into my topic of talking about letting go. So I'm in a situation in life where um, I've come to these, let's say, crossroads before, and in the past it kind of sent me into a spiral of desperation, a little bit of panic, a little bit of worry, about, oh no, what's going to happen next, type of a thing. It's really um, any of these things, any of that. Once you start to spiral into desperation or fear, panic, all of these things, not only does it make you stupid, for lack of better terms, it also just perpetuates more of that thing. This kind of is almost like the idea of laughing in the face of the devil, let's say, even though I don't think that there is a one specific entity that's, a devil with pitchforks or whatever. It's just a metaphor. When you are faced with seemingly daunting, for whatever situation that you're in, odds, and you might feel like you're on the verge of losing everything, there is there's a profound thing that's actually trying to happen there. Kind of like a snake shedding its skin. If the snake keeps its skin forever, um, the new skin underneath won't be able to ever, uh, you know, receive the light of the sun. Snakes are cold blooded, so they need the sun. They need warmth, generally, to survive. So, not saying that we are cold blooded. I'm just, spitting out random facts like a cobra. Spitting venom. Not really venom, but I'm hoping that this message isn't you know, too misconstrued in any type of a way. Be as shrewd or as wise as serpents and as innocent as doves, is what Yeshua said. So, kind of like merging the two polarities in a way, if you really think about it. Could be seen that way. But some of that worry, a little bit of that desperation's kind of popped it back in a little bit, because when you've gone through something multiple times, the body keeps a score. Your nervous system remembers everything that it's been through. That's why when something happens that makes you feel uncomfortable, and it's happened before, it'll trigger that response like instantly. But you do have the choice of how you actually react to it or don't react. I've said this before, but I believe that every job, so called, or workplace that I've ever gone felt at some point, not very long after being there, felt like a slow death to me. And I was young. I've had so many jobs just in my 20s. I didn't really start actually officially working until I was, I think, 17. I kept that job, I think, for a year. But it's the most annoying thing to me that um, in order for people to like want to hire you, they need to make sure that you've stayed at a certain place for a certain amount of time, as if how long you've been at a certain place matters. It's crazy to me that people are able to stay in a one specific job for most of their life. It's actually profoundly troubling to me that that level of consciousness. For me personally, there's no judgment here that I'm intending to portray on anybody. But letting go can sometimes mean that you let go of the life that you had, or the trajectory that you have had been on, and you may not see that that previous trajectory was actually leading you to a place where your soul did not intend for you to be. That's why it's a really important thing to distinguish the ego from your spirit and from divine guidance and just from your logical mind. Over and over and over again, I've either gotten no response from certain employers or whatever, and I don't know. It kind of feels like it's futile to keep putting effort towards that because I keep getting the same result, and no problem or no issue can ever be solved from the same level of consciousness that it was created from. Like I said, y'all, I've been through this many times, only to end up with a job that, you know, initially I have a lot of enthusiasm about, because anything I start, I tend to have a lot of enthusiasm about it. Then it gets to a point where it gets so repetitious and people start acting a certain way around me. And whether they know it or not, they just start to change, start acting weird, either clingy or very sort of passive aggressive, I suppose. And I don't see how I can continue doing that. I really don't. So, not everybody is at this particular place in life. I'm just explaining where I am at. Where I feel like if anybody is actually truly becoming conscious of this world and the way that it works, eventually those people will find themselves in a very similar kind of a place, a crossroads, so to speak, where the job is draining you. What you thought would be a fulfilling career is actually you really don't have any control over that. You don't have any creative control over it unless you start it from the ground up, which is something that honestly you need a direct uh, guidance and direct communication with your higher self or with God, the higher intelligent design, in order to do that. And that can be a process that can take you know, chronologically in our um, time construct matrix reality, can seem to take a long time. But when you truly decide something from your heart of hearts, it does already exist. It's a matter of staying consistent with that feeling or knowing, inner knowing, really, and not allowing for any negative thoughts to sway you from letting that arrive into your reality, into your current state in this body. Effort effort towards things can be good, but really efforts towards anything in this world, in a physical sense, is ultimately futile. Ultimately futile. It doesn't mean that those things are bad, but it's the idea of storing up treasures in your heart in the kingdom of heaven instead of storing up treasures on earth in this world. Because I know in my heart of hearts, money really means nothing to me. Most of my life, I've had very little. And it actually kind of started off by choice. I would just give it away sometimes, massive amounts of it. But there is a spiritual principle in that what you give will come back to you. What you put out will come back to you in some way. It may not be the actual, the money or whatever. But there's something greater about that. It's like the idea of, helping out a homeless person who doesn't have any money. They may use that money for food, they may use it for drugs, it doesn't matter. It's the act of extending what you have with the intention to help. That's what actually can be fulfilling for you. It doesn't matter what that money is necessarily used for. or what we call money. I'm really sick of it, honestly. Really sick of it. Trying to navigate in a world like this, being where I'm at in my awareness and my consciousness, is difficult for sure. No doubt. And usually it's always the thought that really is worse than staying stuck in the thought. But faith, the size of a mustard seed, as long as you can hold on to that mustard seed sized faith long enough, something will come around to surprise you for sure. I know that. I just know it. And I don't need to prove it. Science and spirituality are the exact same thing, they're not separate. Science just takes what seems to be forever to catch up to spirituality. The mind is worshipped in this world. The intellect, IQ, all of this stuff. It only matters what you are able to use with your intelligence. What you are able to do with that. And if you're just further enslaving yourself and others around you, sitting in your ivory white tower of superiority, thinking that you know it all, well, then you know nothing at all. Absolutely nothing. And you don't allow for others who would actually find a connection with themselves to do so either. Which is, that's a horrendous level of karma for sure. To keep people trapped, knowingly keeping people trapped in a certain vibrational frequency. Comparing yourself on an intellectual level with others. Whether it's with just, whether you're male or female, or whether you think one gender is smarter than the other, or vice versa. All I can say is that that is incredibly, incredibly foolish. That is a very low state of consciousness. Very low. Pathetic. I gotta say it. It's just pathetic. It's boring. It's so boring to me. Just like even this so-called advanced technology that we have today. It is boring, honestly. It's really not that advanced compared to what technology has been before, or what it even could be if it was utilized properly. There's no wisdom being wielded at all, basically, for 99% of what we call advanced technology. People are just using it to be dumbasses, honestly. Wearing these like VR goggle things, walking down the street, like totally dissociating from their surroundings. Like, if you're gonna use something like that, fucking use it in your house. Why the fuck do you gotta be out in public making yourself look like a absolute fucking baboon? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just the dumbest shit I've ever seen. I've been loving some Black Sabbath lately. Not listening to them, but playing their songs, because I love their songs. And the only lyrics I ever sing from that song is when it goes like, "Nobody wants him. He just stares at the world. Planning his vengeance. Whoa, yeah. Vengeance not really being like, I'm going to get revenge, but, read between the lines. That's how I think a lot of us, at a certain point, when we get to a certain point of awareness, we feel like Iron Man, you know, start to kind of develop a bit of a thick, calloused shell around you, not letting yourself be as vulnerable as you would like, just staring at the world, just wondering, just observing the idiocracy. In just it's disgusting. It's disturbing. It's disappointing. It's I'm holding myself back quite a bit, honestly, from the level of rage that I could express. If I were to see that kind of stuff in person, and thankfully I don't live in a big city, otherwise I'd probably be in prison by this point. I probably would be. I wouldn't even care to be to be honest. It's basically our. I mean, a big city is basically a prison for somebody who's consciously aware of what happens in this world. Living in a big city is like being in a prison. But if you do live in a big city and you're consciously aware, that means that you have certain aspects about you, like it may be even in astrology, that are working in your favor. So, um, I am a very like grounded, down to earth, don't like heights. Um, I'm much more in love with the natural world, just by my nature, and really everybody is connected, or you know, or lack thereof, connected, less or more, to the natural world. But society has over generations and generations forced us into prison walls, really, inside four walls. Inside four walls. Inside four walls, my friend, they took away your freedom, but they'll never take your mind. Good Nevermore lyrics there. They can't take your mind unless you give it away. If you give it away, then they didn't really take anything. You just that's something you give away. And what even is the mind? Is it just your intellect, or is your mind really? Is it your heart? Is it your gut? Your brain? I don't know. I think it's more of a metaphor for your free will. Mind, mind. Think about that. It's always your attitude that can either make or break any situation. Whatever attitude you have towards anything, that's something you actually have complete, full control over at any given time. Even if you're in the midst of rage or sobbing, crying, or even manic ecstasy, uh, you know, uh, I can now be in a fit of like full blown rage and still intend to use that rage to not completely destroy everything around me. There might be a few things that I would pick, that I could at least smash my fists into that wouldn't be considered property damage. Like this filing cabinet over here. I slammed it a few times. Just because, I don't know, last few days, actually this whole last week has just been kind of a weird one for me. Probably a little bit too much information overload, looking for things outside of me, because it's kind of, it's been a pattern for me, you know, looking to others for answers, trying to figure things out that way when really it's all within. I'm gonna take a real quick bathroom break, y'all. Go to Cola's getting to me. I will be right back. Thank y'all for your patience. All right. Much appreciated. Much appreciated the patience there. So yeah, I know things are going in the direction that they are supposed to be right now, even though sometimes it doesn't seem like anything is happening really. But there's so much happening in the stillness that most of us don't see or, you know, can comprehend. So many people have such a difficult time with silence, with stillness, because in reality, whether they can actually comprehend it with their five senses or not, there's so much happening there that I think that that's actually the overwhelm. Is that now all of a sudden you're faced with yourself and all of the things that you picked up in this world, and the good with the bad, right? All of it. And I sure as fuck ain't perfect with that, but I'm much better now at doing that than I used to be, which is good. I believe a peace beyond understanding is possible if you just allow it. Allow what needs to rise up, let it rise up. See it, face it, intentionally let it go. Once you've held on to it for long enough, let it go. Then there'll be more. This is a continuation. This entire thing is a continuation. Where you're at right now is not the end of the story. You might not even be done with chapter 1 in the grand scheme of things, or even halfway through chapter 1, depending on who you are and your perspective, I suppose. We're all writing a book, you know. A story to the creator. Whether we even know that or not. All the ups and downs, the good and the bad, the deceptions and the clarity. So I think it is important that with whatever you're doing, it is to remember to remember patience, and remember that if you do see a higher way of being, a higher way of living, that yes, you do take right action where you can, and just hold on to that mustard seed of faith. But also realize that if you were given everything instantaneously, it's kind of like putting new wine into old wineskins. Those old wineskins, like as a metaphor for your old self, or the self that is in a state of repair, let's say, or let's just say the old self, the self that, uh, in order for growth, must be replaced with a new wineskin. That new wine must be put into the new wineskin. So that's why holding on to that mustard seed of faith is so important. Because if you let that faith go for long enough, then you stay stuck as an old wineskin, and that new wine cannot be poured into you. This wine being a metaphor for uh, higher consciousness, uh, divine inspiration. Let's just say higher consciousness, higher way of being, higher way of living. To be honest, I think a lot of people that they think if they just got like $1 million awarded to them, that their life would be um, instantly better, as if the money had anything to do with it. Most people ruin their lives if they get a huge sum of money that they just won by sheer luck or chance. They completely destroy themselves with it, because that's a power that they were completely not wielding before, or a potential energy, kinetic energy. I could say personally, I know what I would do with a lot of that. Maybe not quite 1 million, but it would be me again giving to certain places, and then also wielding it very wisely. With the very little money that um, I have wielded in my life, over time, this wasn't always the case. Like in my early 20s, my grocery bill would be like 4 to 5 times more than what most people spend in like 2 weeks. Just because, you know, if you're kind of young and naive and you get sucked into, all of these different so-called healthy foods or healthy snacks, so-called, that shit's not worth it. You can get like bulk bags of healthy grains, healthy beans, legumes, lentils for so cheap, and you can make that last for such a long time. Very basic base ingredients like that, and you can make that last for a long time, really long time, for a fraction of the price of what even people who are buying, you know, not so healthy things from a store would be, spending probably in like months, really. And we don't need as much food as we believe we do either. This is coming from somebody who emotionally eats, so I've paid the price many times for doing that, even recently. But I am using wisdom, at least when I do those things, practical tools, etc. Those parts of ourselves, we're not meant to shun them or, disown them or, these types of things, because that's not what the Creator does. The Creator allows and loves all aspects of us. So, by definition, being uh, creations of the Creator, we have that same ability to do that for ourselves and for others. Like the animal part of ourselves that simply lusts for the sake of lust. The more you judge that thing, the more it perpetuates. And the deeper and darker the shame, the rabbit holes of depravity go. And a lot of people go down that road, man. End up in prison or end up doing some really horrific things because of the shame and the guilt and the resentment that they have towards that thing. And eventually it gets to a point where they just accept it as a part of themselves and just become that thing that they had been judging. What you judge, you become. So if you do lust, say, if you're a man or a woman, really it doesn't matter. If you lust just for the sake of lust and want to be in a relationship just for that, love that part of yourself that lusts for the sake of lust. Or even if you're, just, you know, lust in your mind or, at a screen or whatever. If you find yourself in that place, actively love yourself after the fact instead of judging yourself for it. I'm not saying it's ideal to just, continue doing that. But from my experience, it becomes less and less of a stronger hold on your life and on your body. And your body will respond very positively, actually. The longer you stay away, the longer you're able to flee from these things. Not really flee, but accept them as a part of yourself. Because anybody is capable of any level or amount of good and any level or amount of evil or anti-life, destruction, any of these things. It's like people who are born into families that basically indoctrinated into doing horrible, horrendous, horrific things to innocent beings. That that child that was born into that family was not born evil. That's I gotta admit, being born into one of those families and having to experience being the perpetrator of such things like that, it's a weird thing to say, but it's probably one of the most noble things. And from a higher perspective place, not actually doing the thing, but for whatever reason that soul chose to incarnate into that family line. I can guarantee that the higher perspective was not to succumb to that lower way of being or to whatever they do. There is that's like the greatest opportunity, that one of the greatest opportunities that exists is to be born in circumstances that are so completely anti-life and miserable like that. I mean, hey, that's from a higher place. That's a strong soul right there. Unfortunately, you know, a lot of those individuals just end up becoming part of the system, part of the problem, which just is just an opportunity. But who can say really what what potential there is still for those and for anybody in their life? Who knows how long human beings will actually be able to live in the coming decades, and what types of breakthroughs will happen. I hold on to that faith. We need visionaries. We need people that can see what is not yet and hold on to that. That's what being a visionary is. Seeing a higher way, seeing a higher, more affluent, utopian like existence in society, and a completely new one, because this old one simply needs to fall away. This one can't be fixed. It can't. It can't. It's already crumbling. It started crumbling a long time ago. Babylon will fall, and it's falling. And faith is not a passive thing either. Faith is actually a verb. It's an action word. Faith is an active action. It really is. Look it up. It's a verb. Not it's not like hope. Hope is passive. Why do we waste time on hope? Just Nevermore lyrics coming in, dude. What was his name? Warren. Yeah, Warren. Lead vocalist in Nevermore, man. Such an awesome voice and such powerful lyrics in some of his songs, too. And got to make music with one of the world's greatest guitar players ever, Jeff Loomis. Absolutely incredible. That dude still to this day, man. The best, if not the best. I mean, the best in his field for sure, I would say. Alongside like Jason Becker and Marty Friedman, all those guys. The Blue Jays. They're squawking out there. So I don't know exactly what I'll do today. I think I should probably get outside at some point, get some sun or do something like that. But I think that's my video for today. Thank y'all for tuning in. It's kind of a bit of a relaxed kind of video, just speaking my mind, speaking my truth, you know. Leave any comments, feedback if you so choose. And until next time, shred onwards and so forth, warriors.